So Michigan State should be talked about nationally. And the Spartans are a proud program. Did you know that? Did you know that Michigan State all time is a top 25, top 20 program? Did you know that? Because the way people talk about Michigan State tells me that no, they didn't know that. And that's rather disappointing because you only have to go, a decade or 11 years back to see them reaching the playoffs and to see them beating Urban Meyer at home in the Horseshoe, who no one else did except Lincoln Riley in his first year with Oklahoma, with a team that probably should have won the Natty based on what they almost did to Georgia that year. It choked. I know if you're an Oklahoma fan, I'm sorry for bringing up that terrible memory, but I mentioned Michigan State in all of that because they have made the playoffs before. They are a top 20 program all time. I mean, you look at Michigan State historically, all time, 733 wins, 490 losses. They almost have a all-time win percentage of 60%. It's pretty impressive. They have 6 claimed titles. 3 of them are recognized. A playoff appearance, 12 conference titles. They won the division 3 times. 2 times were in, I forget if it was the Legends or Leaders division, and then 1 time in 2015. They won 10 games in 2017, a New Year's Six Bowl in 2021. I mean, this is a program you can come to and you can win. And I'm a big fan of Mark D'Antonio and what he did at Michigan State, and I think he proves you can win at Michigan State. He won in the modern era at Michigan State, where Saban and Meyer and at times, USC, whether it was under Kiffin or Helton, or when you look at Auburn, Gus Malzahn brought in some really good classes, or Michigan under Harbaugh or Hoke, or even Rich Rod brought in top 10 classes. And he was just, recruiting at an okay level, mostly 3 stars, some 4 stars, occasionally a 5-star here and there. And from 13 to 15, they won 13 games one year, 11 games the next year, and then 12 games the following year. I mean, that right there, you're talking about 36 wins in 3 seasons, winning 12 games on average per season. And in that stretch, he went 2-1 against Ohio State under Urban Meyer, who's a legend. So I'm probably rambling a bit here, but I'm telling you all, Michigan State's a top 20, top 25 program all time. They have a big endowment. They have billionaire donors. And before we continue with this, and almost my passionate defense of Michigan State football and telling you why you should buy in, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, and comment where you see Michigan State football in 5 years. And while this is not a basketball channel, I know Michigan State basketball is a big deal, and the new AD will help out there. So tell me what you see from Michigan State basketball in 5 years too. Just to say all those things, Michigan State bringing in Jay Batt, who previously worked at Alabama, East Carolina, Georgia Tech was his first ever AD job, and he made the decision to hire Brent Key. I would say that's panned out well. Georgia Tech recruiting leveled up. He made a decision to move the annual rivalry game with Georgia to a neutral field every other year, typically when Georgia Tech used to get a home game, and that would give Georgia Tech a few $1 million. He was able to raise $500 million to renovate Bobby Dodd Stadium, and I will tell you this, Georgia Tech as a football program has been down recently. They've not had the recent success that Michigan State did. I know they won a title sometime in the 20th century. They've had good seasons before. So I'm not going to... Actually, I will tell you whether Michigan State or Georgia Tech is a better all-time program. And I can tell you that thanks to Kyle Umlang, who does a very good job of tracking blue bloods and the best college football programs of all time. Umlang is awesome and does all these fancy graphics and data gathering to make what I think is a pretty incredible analysis of things. So, not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but looking at the blue blood rankings, just looking at them, it appears that Michigan State's ahead of Georgia Tech but both are top 25 programs. And again, Tech has more recently struggled than Michigan State to a larger degree. You remember the Jeff Collins era? It was worse than the average Michigan State season of the Mel Tucker era, which was, in all honesty, pretty atrocious. And Michigan State's in the Big Ten. They have more money to throw around than Georgia Tech does, and they're more interested in sports than Georgia Tech is, I would confidently say. So to a program like Michigan State, which is better than Georgia Tech, I think that's going to succeed. And you look at Michigan State recruiting right now, like honestly, it's not where it needs to be. And last year, it was 42nd nationally with 41 commits, average recruit rank of an 86.51. It was Smith's first year, but still, recruiting outside the top 40 typically won't get you a lot. It got D'Antonio somewhere, but D'Antonio was also that elite. I think that D'Antonio in the 2010s in his prime was the best head coach in the Big Ten. Like, I think from 13 to 15, he was a better coach than Meyer. Meyer was just at Ohio State and inherited a better situation from Tressel and then built on that with the resources he had, making his job, I think, easier than what D'Antonio had. I think D'Antonio in that stretch was a genuinely better head coach than Meyer. Not saying all time, but in that stretch, he was. So, again, exception to the rule. I'm very high on Smith. I think that Jonathan Smith is one of the most underrated coaches in the country, and I will tell you that I think Michigan State's staff is one of the better staffs in the Big Ten. You just didn't see it last year because the roster was that talentless, and when a talentless roster suffers injuries and plays a tough schedule, they'll usually have a losing record no matter how good the staff is. Remember, even Nick Saban, and Smith's not Nick Saban, but even Saban went 7-6 in year one at Alabama, and Michigan State probably played a tougher schedule than that Alabama team did and had a more talentless roster. So I don't hold last year against Smith all that much. I don't. And this season, this recruiting cycle for 2026, they have a 4-star, 9 3-stars, average recruit rank of an 86.95, total of 10 commits. And when you look at their board, I'm not telling you that it's the most impressive board in the world. Most of it is a bunch of 3-stars, but they do have some 4-stars that they are involved with. And I think that what you want if you're Smith with J-Bat is to get some more 4-stars than you had last year. Just a little bit more. Not even 25% of the recruiting class, because I think that's a little unrealistic. And then you want to do better in the portal, and you want to retain the good players that you have. Michigan State's still rebuilding from Tucker making the roster worse than it was at the end of the D'Antonio era, which was pretty bad, pretty battered, not a whole lot of development or scheming going on there. You should buy into Michigan State football because they have an athletic director who can turn Bobby Dodd Stadium, a stadium that is not even full most of the time. He can get people to invest $500 million into renovating that stadium in an ACC program that does not care about football as much as your average Big Ten or SEC. It may not even care as much as your average Big 12 program at football. I don't know Georgia Tech a whole lot, so if I said anything there that was inaccurate, correct me. But from what I understand, talking to some people a little bit, and also just based on what has happened at Georgia Tech, a lot of those things bear at least some weight to them. That's why you should buy into Michigan State, because even if Smith doesn't work out, and the Smith file from his time at Oregon State, and Oregon State is one of those jobs in football that is harder than Michigan State, and his final year in the Pac-12, tough schedule. Prior year, I mean, every schedule is tough in the Pac-12 when you're Oregon State, because you're basically incapable of getting a top 25 recruiting class. It'll never happen in Corvallis, and never was going to happen without some grand exception. He had Oregon State, top 25, power rated. He had Oregon State winning 10 games. He had Oregon State winning those 10 games with, like, Ben Gulbranson or Trevor Jebbia. And then he had them winning 8 games in contention for beating a top 5 Washington team with DJ Uiagalelei, who had his best season ever with Oregon State. So the point being, with Smith's track record of slowly but surely building programs or at least program an Oregon State into kind of a physical juggernaut, who is one of the better Pac-12 teams on defense, and certainly in rushing offense and offensive line play and development. And then looking at Bat's track record, worked with Saban at Alabama, and Saban had nothing but praise for him. Helped Georgia Tech, I think, resurrect their football program a little bit. Not just a little bit, but entirely responsible for that, actually. I think you should buy in. I think it'd be a grave mistake not to. Even if you don't buy into Smith, you need to buy into Michigan State football in the long haul. I think within 5 years, certainly within 10 years, I think that this program will not be missing bowl games. And in fact, I don't even think that will be viewed as their floor within that time frame. I think that their floor will once again be just going bowling, and this team will be viewed at some points as a college football playoff contender. I genuinely believe that much in Michigan State football with the move they made at AD. And a little bit more importantly, but athletic director and fundraising is still extremely important because of the coaching staff that I think they have right now with Jonathan Smith and his assistants.